the hidden architects of the galaxy, inside the Guardians of the Whills, in the story George Lucas almost told. When audiences first met the blind warrior monk Chirrut Îmwe in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, they were introduced to something quietly radical in Star Wars, a Force tradition that wasn't Jedi and wasn't Sith. The Guardians of the Whills are spiritual devotees stationed on the desert world of Jedha, a place sacred to the Force. Unlike the Jedi, they don't wield lightsabers or command supernatural powers. Instead, they serve, protect, and believe. They are monks, guardians, and pilgrims of the Force. They don't use the Force, they listen to it. According to canon lore, they act as caretakers of ancient temples and protectors of kyber crystal sites, deeply connected to the spiritual roots of the galaxy rather than its wars. Not a Jedi, not a Sith, something older. The Guardians respect the third path, one often overlooked in the saga's light versus dark dichotomy. They don't divide the Force into good or evil, they emphasize balance and acceptance, and they follow the will of the Force rather than trying to control it. In many ways, they reassemble real-world monistic traditions, quiet observers of a cosmic truth, rather than warriors shaping it. And yet, their very name hints to something far deeper. To understand the Guardians, you have to go back to the beginning before Star Wars was even Star Wars. Creator George Lucas originally titled his early drafts Journal of the Whills. The Whills weren't just background lore, they were once intended to be narrators of the entire saga, ancient, possibly immortal beings who observed and recorded galactic history. In Lucas's early vision, everything you see in Star Wars was being told through their perspective. Think of them as cosmic historians, or even storytellers of destiny. Here's where things get truly fascinating. Before selling Lucasfilm, Lucas had plans for a sequel trilogy that would dive into the deepest layer of Star Wars mythology, a realm beyond Jedi and Sith, a microscopic universe, a world of beings called the Whills. According to Lucas, the Whills were very tiny life forms connected to the Force. They feed off the Force and influence reality. Force-sensitive beings like Jedi were essentially vehicles for them. In his own words, they were, in a sense, the ones who actually control the universe. This would have taken Star Wars into bold territory, blending science fiction with metaphysical philosophy. The Force wouldn't just be mystical energy, it would be part of a symbiotic ecosystem. Remember the controversial concept of midichlorians from The Phantom Menace? Lucas wasn't done with it. In his planned sequels, midichlorians would act as a bridge. They connect living beings with the Whills. The Whills, in turn, guide the fate of the galaxy. In other words, the Force flows through life, communicates via midichlorians, directed by the Whills. It's a layered, almost biological interpretation of destiny. After the Walt Disney Company acquired Lucasfilm, these ideas were largely set aside. Instead, the name Whills was reintroduced in a smaller, more grounded way as the Guardians of the Whills. Not cosmic entities, not universe-shaping beings, just humble monks preserving echoes of a much bigger idea. In modern canon, the Guardians are less about cosmic control and more about spiritual perspective. They answer a quiet but powerful question. What if the Force isn't something you master, but something you trust? Through characters like Chirrut Îmwe, they remind us of that belief, not power, is what truly connects someone to the Force. The Guardians of the Whills are in many ways a fragment of what a grander vision, a leftover thread from a version of Star Wars that never came to be. A vision where the Force had a deeper biological origin, destiny was guided by unseen entities, and the galaxy itself was part of something even larger. It's a glimpse behind the curtain of George Lucas's imagination, where mythology, science, and philosophy collide. And perhaps that's what makes the Guardians so compelling. They aren't just characters in a story, they're evidence of a story that almost was.